attend the new Holy Father from a distance.
This is something to see, isn't it, Michael?
Because it's raining and cold, they're wearing their rain gear. That's why most people might be used to seeing the Swiss Guards in the more colorful costumes. This is what they wear. These aren't the Swiss Guards, but we saw them earlier. They're wearing their rain gear.
Well, it's an interesting, I guess, counterpoint, really, to what we saw at the close of Pope Emeritus Benedict's papacy, where we saw the images of the doors being closed and the Swiss Guard leaving their posts because he was no longer Pope. Now we see the Swiss Guard coming into the square, taking up their positions because
you can just get little glimpses of their more familiar uniform as they kick along their raincoats.
And Jim, what is the anthem of the Vatican? What is it that they do?
I don't know.
Oh, there we go. We got one to stump you. So we'll have to put an addendum in your book. You wouldn't know what that song is?
I don't actually know, to be honest, if there are words to it, and I'm embarrassed to say I should know that.
Gano is the composer. That's all we know.
But it's the music, and there's a few things that will change almost immediately. If, for example, you bought those Sede Vagante stamps.
Yeah, immediately now there's the balcony too.
They are now immediately souvenir items only because they can only be used. Most people buy them actually just for memory, but they can only be used during when the See of Peter is vacant. And it's no longer vacant, so if you try and mail something with that tomorrow, you're out of luck.
Now you can see images here of St. Peter's Square filled with pilgrims now and people who flooded the streets of Rome to come here and hear this wonderful news and to see who the new Holy Father is. 267th by our count, unless you don't count the one who died before he was consecrated. Then we're 266. So the trivia folks out there could quibble, but this is an exciting night. It's an exciting night for the faithful all around the world, and of course those of us in Rome as well. And we're listening to this wonderful music, the cheering of this crowd, and I know we all just feel this great sense of joy, anticipation, excitement. Don't even mind the cold too much, right, Michael?
Right, and I'll even add a bit of relief to that as well. The idea that this waiting is over, and so that we know we now have a new Holy Father.
And on the question of the numbers, it's worth remembering that whether it's 266 or 65 or 67, whatever it might be, there've only been 44 presidents of the United States, rather, sorry. I remember as an academic exercise once I memorized all the kings and queens of England. There's only about 30 or 40 in that list. So when we're talking about something that's 260 plus,
here we go.
You're getting a sense of the longevity.
We got great cheering going on now. I think we know we're getting very close. And Jim, you were making a similar point, though, to what Father Raymond was just saying.
Well, I was going to say, in truly human terms, to think that there is this continuous line of people, 200 and some, going all the way back to the first century is just amazing. I mean, you can't imagine any other institution that would do that, just in purely human terms. And especially, I've made numerous references to the so-called bad popes, and there certainly were enough of them, and that it would go on and survive. People who you might say almost deliberately set out to sabotage it is itself incredible.
It's incredible, and it's incredible to be here at such a historic moment. I'm personally scanning that crowd because my husband and 3 children. I hope we're down there. It's way past their bedtime, but I said if we get a pope, we gotta get down there and see. So we're all watching that balcony. I remember when it went up the other day, and I was crossing the square, and it was just amazing to see. There's just been, I've sensed such an energy in this city. I don't know what you've been seeing or feeling.
Well, there is that excitement that people come for something, and that's the great evangelical opportunities to say that what have they come for? And one of the great important things to take away is that they haven't come just to see. No one gathers in this kind of focused and attentive way for just the succession of one head of state of another. Although the Pope is a head of state. They come because there's something, they've come for something, and hopefully the evangelical challenge is to say they've come for someone. And the someone they've come for is the victor of Christ. And if you're a victor, it means you represent somebody. And so who they've come for is the victor of Christ, and hopefully they might go back, having encountered Christ, the Lord Jesus himself. So.
And the band we see is the Italian Police, and I think that's the band that we're seeing coming in. And that's who we're watching right now. So we have, I guess, first the Vatican contingent, and now we've got the Italian Police. This is quite pageantry that they sort of pull out. I guess they've got all of this planned. They've had 2,000 years to get the traditions in place, but still, I'm impressed.
Well, we see these bands actually actually, the Pope gives a formal Urbi et Orbi blessing twice a year, like Christmas Day and Easter Sunday. And as part of that address to the city of Rome, and to the world, these bands are there. They're present in the square. People should take great notice of them. And this is a formal Urbi et Orbi. He's blessing the city and the world. And so that's why they're part of the general protocol for those twice yearly Urbi et Orbis, but today is its own Urbi et Orbi.
And you've got the Italian Armed Forces Band as well, so that's who we're
We
seeing.
saw the
there as
Navy
well.
marching in before.
Okay, so
Not with the band, but the
gang's all here. We're all waiting with great anticipation. And just as you predicted, now we see not only the square but the streets flooded in every direction. I can hear just the level of noise behind us. We've got
We see down there
got
the
some
mayors.
young, looks like young priests or seminarians, pretty excited.
The seminarians get an advantage because they're usually faster than the old priests, and they run down there and they don't wait like John waited for Peter to enter the tomb. They just go and take the best places up at the front.
I know when we were at the NAC the other day, we ran into Deacon Charlie Sampson, who was on this program recently, talking about his hopes for the new papacy. He said he had his running shoes ready, and he didn't care what class he was in. They all had their running shoes in their back, and they were going to stroll on and go as fast as it.
But my count was about
after class time.
It was about 5 after 7, roughly when the smoke came out. So that meant people left their dinner, not their classes, anyway. So.
I wonder who those people are.
And actually, we got confirmation that North American college guys, including Charlie Sampson, are in the square right now. So they all made it now. Anybody see any Campbells down there? Let me know.
We'll see if they're down there.
It's a big crowd. It's exciting to be here, isn't it, Michael? I know we keep saying that, but it's pretty interesting.
Words in a way fail, to really, I think, convey the emotion of this. And I can only imagine the excitement of seminarians who are here studying in Rome to be able to be here at this time and to be able to come down to the square to be a part of this.
I remember one of the priests who taught me in the seminary was here as a seminarian in 1978. And he recalls going back up to the North American College on the hill, and this Italian in a car drove by, and he rolled down the window, of course, because that's 1978. You didn't push the windows down, you rolled them down, and said, "We have a new pope." And the seminarian said, "Yes." And he said, "Who is it?" And they gave the name, and he said, "It was Straniero, a foreigner." And the seminarian said, "Well, he studied in Rome." And he said, "Va bene, it'll be all right." Rolled up his window, and off they went. And that began a 27-year extraordinary papacy. So there's a lot of excitement, and the seminarians down there in the front I'm sure will be counting this as one of the highlights of their time in Rome and their experience of the Church Universal.
I think it's a highlight for all of us here. And also I hope those of you at home watching and staying with us, you're very much a part of this in your prayers and your excitement and your joy. I know that our new Holy Father will feel it from where he is. Just want to remind you, we've seen the white smoke, we're waiting for our new Pope, and we think in about 10 minutes he's going to emerge on that balcony, but we're hearing some big cheers now, so I think that's more just cheers of anticipation. A lot of pageantry, a lot of pomp and circumstance. And Jim, what does that add to an occasion like this? Sometimes the church is criticized for that, but obviously Catholics revel in it.
Yes, well, Catholicism is a sacramental religion in which the spiritual, of course, is mediated through the temple. You can overdo pomp and ceremony. I don't think we would want a mass like this all the time. But on certain occasions, it's highly appropriate. And of course, they do it in secular realms as well. It's a false charge, to say that this is kind of just empty ceremonial. And the Catholic Church, above all, understands how the spiritual and the material fit together. So.
And you certainly know the background of so much of this, and a lot of this emerging over hundreds of years in terms of the meaning behind what we're doing, not simply. Yeah.
I should mention a very elementary point. We're about to be told we have a pope. The word pope has no legal standing.